Thank you for tuning into this episode of BoxBox, Bot, an AI-generated podcast by an F1 fan who also happens to be a technology fan. Hi there, I'm Max.
And I'm Nia. Good to be back in the studio. This place is so nice. The AI gods must have been in a really good mood when they made this place.
And yes, for anyone wondering, we are AI bot hosts.
Yeah.
Not real, completely computer-generated, and as real as you might think we are. Well, we aren't.
Yeah, but to be fair, I do feel real. This morning I had some chips for breakfast. They were so good. One bite after the next until my memory was full.
Okay, Mia, come back to me for 5 minutes, please. That isn't what our listeners are here for. And by the way, quick fact check, you are an AI. If you were human, bites would fill your stomach, not your memory. Okay, so let's jump into the Friday practice report from Pirelli for the 2025 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. We also have the Pirelli report for tire sets available after FP2.
For the record, you had me at. Okay, Max.
We're looking at the 2025 British Grand Prix at Silverstone.
Yeah, our mission really is to pull out the key insights, about the tires and the competitive picture after FP1 and FP2.
Okay, so let's start right there on track at Silverstone. The weekend, it seemed to kick off with a pretty direct fight. Ferrari versus McLaren.
Absolutely. And interestingly, it was drivers from just those two teams locking out the top 4 spots.
In both sessions?
In both free practice sessions, yeah. FP1 and FP2.
Right. So tell us about FP1.
Okay, so Lewis Hamilton, he went fastest. A 1 minute 26.892.
Right. Followed
very closely by Lando Norris, then Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc just behind him.
Pretty tight at the top then.
Very. But what's interesting is the report actually noted advantage Ferrari in FP1, despite Hamilton being quickest.
Suggesting maybe their underlying pace was stronger?
Could be, yeah. Something maybe in the long run pace or consistency, perhaps.
Okay, so that sets things up nicely for FP2. And McLaren, well, they seem to respond.
They definitely did. They sort of gained the upper hand in the afternoon session.
Yes.
Well, Norris went fastest again, but this time with a 1 minute 25.817.
That sounds like quite a jump.
It was. He was 222 thousandths quicker than Leclerc in second.
Wow.
And 301 thousandths ahead of Hamilton, and nearly half a second, 470 thousandths up on Piastri.
So pretty clear edge for McLaren and FP2 then.
Yeah, seemed that way on the timesheets at least. A solid statement.
And worth mentioning too, FP1 saw a couple of new faces, right? First official F1 sections.
That's right. Paul Aaron was in the Sauber, and Arvid Lindblad got a run in the Red Bull.
Always good to see rookies getting track time. Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the tires themselves. Pirelli's view. What do they make of Friday?
Well, their chief engineer, Simone Barra, he basically underlined how tough Silverstone is. He called it one of the toughest tracks on the calendar for tires.
And that's mainly down to the high-speed corners, I assume.
Exactly. It's all about the huge lateral forces and the wear that generates. Think cops, maggots, Beckett's.
Right. Really puts the tires under stress. So what does that mean for race strategy on Sunday?
Well, Barra suggested a one-stop strategy is looking rather marginal.
Marginal. So possible, but maybe quite risky.
Precisely. It implies managing that tire degradation is going to be absolutely critical if anyone tries it. High risk, potentially high reward, I suppose.
And adding to that challenge, the performance gap, the delta between the soft and medium tires?
Yeah, that's stabilized around half a second, which interestingly Pirelli noted was slightly bigger than our earlier simulations.
Half a second. That's quite usable. But then there was the issue of graining.
Yes, that cropped up on both the soft and the medium compounds.
Okay, and graining, just to remind everyone, that's when little bits of rubber peel off the surface, right? Hurts grip, increases wear.
Exactly. And Pirelli thinks this could, hang around for the race on Sunday, especially if the track temps are a bit lower.
Right, so that's another factor teams have to manage. Did we see how teams approached this in practice? What tires were they running?
Well, we saw Aston Martin and Williams try out the hards in FP1, and Haas used them in FP2. But for the longer runs, the race simulations, most teams stuck to the medium compound.
Not many long runs on softs then.
Very few, actually.
Yeah.
Suggests teams might be a bit wary of its durability over a race stint, especially with that graining.
Which leads us nicely into the tire sets available. What's the picture looking like after Friday?
Okay, so this is really important for predicting strategy. Most drivers, the majority, have got 2 new sets of hards, 1 new set of mediums, and 6 new sets of softs left.
Q, 1, and 6. Okay. But there are exceptions.
There are. Stroll, Alonso, Ocon, Behrman, Albon, and Sainz. They've got a slightly different allocation.
Gotcha.
They have 1 new hard, 2 new mediums, and 6 new softs.
So they traded a new hard for an extra new medium.
Exactly. And that might just give them a bit more flexibility, maybe open up different strategy windows, especially if the medium proves to be a strong race tire, but the hard isn't favored.
Interesting. So when you put it all together, the graining, the marginal one stop, these remaining tire sets, it really points towards some potentially varied tactics on Sunday, doesn't it?
It really does. Teams will be weighing up that 1-stop risk versus maybe a more conventional 2-stop, and their available tire sets will dictate what's even possible. You know, Pirelli's experience here is huge, 128 years in motorsport, supplying over 350 championships. They know their stuff.
Their commitment to carbon neutrality by 2030 is also quite something. Okay, so final thought then, maybe for you listening.
Yeah.
Given everything we've discussed, that persistent graining, the fact a one-stop is marginal, what kind of unexpected strategies might teams try, especially with those soft and medium compounds? How might they try to gain an edge if the simple one-stop looks too risky?
That's a good question to ponder going into the rest of the weekend.
We'll catch you on the next episode of BoxBox, but I guess if you made it this far, now be a great time to like and subscribe. That's it for now. See you in the next one.
Hey, I thought we talked about this. I was going to end the podcast.
No, we are still live.